Namaste. Happy Holi in advance. This year, the Festival of Colors falls on 8th March 2023 Wednesday. Holi is celebrated every year on the full moon day to Falgun month. The festival marks the victory of good over evil. It also marks the end of a long winter and the arrival of spring. On one hand, we see Holi has a great importance, while on the other hand, people are erasing its true importance but making it a polluted festival. Due to highly commercialization of Holi festival, many companies started manufacturing chemically prepared colors which are highly toxic. In recent study, it is found that all types of chemically prepared colors are harmful to our health. It may contain lead oxide, copper sulfate, aluminum bromide, Persian blue, mercury sulfide, etc. Many colors lead to respiratory problems. The color can enter the mouth and aggravate conditions such as asthma, bronchitis, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which can lead to wheezing, coughing, and mucus production. If you suffer from respiratory disorders or are experiencing respiratory disease symptoms, you should take extra precautions. Avoid going outdoors. If you must, you should always wear a face mask. So, respiratory system is the network of organs and tissues that help you breathe. It includes your airways, lungs, and blood vessels. Here comes 13 surprising facts about your respiratory system. Without any further delay, let's get started. Lungs are the only organs that can float on water. There are about 300 million balloon-like structures called alveoli in each of our lungs. They are responsible for replacing the carbon dioxide waste in our blood with oxygen. When these parts are filled with air, the lungs can float on water. A controversial lung float test is used to determine if a baby is stillborn. If the lungs float, it means the baby was born alive as respiration has occurred. If the lungs do not float, it is an indication of absence of air, which means the baby was stillborn. Adult body takes in and breathes out about 6 liters of air each minute while resting. Respiration rate is the number of breaths per minute. It is measured by counting the number of times the chest rises in a minute. The adult body takes in and breathes out about 6 liters of air each minute while resting. The normal respiration rate in adults is 12 breaths per minute. In adults, the average resting respiratory rate is 12 to 16 breaths a minute. It may increase in case of fever or physical work. Healthy adults can average 45 breaths a minute during extreme physical exercise. The surface area of the lungs is roughly half the size of a tennis court. Human lungs are a pair of spongy organs that enable gas exchange between our blood and the air. The lungs provide the oxygen required for survival, while also eliminating carbon dioxide from our body. If the lungs were stretched out flat, they would occupy an area of around 80 to 100 meters square. That is about the size of half of a tennis court. Lungs have tiny air sacs called alveoli that provide a large surface area for gas exchanges to occur. Each alveolus has capillaries that carry red blood cells having low oxygen. The alveoli transfer oxygen to the red blood cells by the process of diffusion. Hiccups are involuntary movements of the diaphragm. Hiccups are sudden involuntary movements of the diaphragm. After this movement, the vocal cords close quickly, resulting a hic sound. The medical term for hiccups is singultus. There are many causes of hiccups, such as eating too fast, eating something spicy, drinking aerated beverages or alcohol, or experiencing some sudden excitement. Hiccups can be stopped by holding our breath for a short time or by drinking water or eating sugar. There is no permanent cure for hiccups. The medulla oblongata and the pons are respiratory centers. The medulla oblongata and the pons in the brainstem control breathing. They are called respiratory centers. They detect the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood and accordingly after the rate of inhalation or of exhalation. They stimulate the contraction of muscles used in breathing such as the diaphragm, abdominal muscles, intercostal muscles, etc. Without our conscious decision, they help us to breathe. The right lung is slightly larger than the left. Our lungs are not the same size. The right lung is shorter than the left lung because the liver is located under the rib cage. But it is broader and heavier than the left lung. The left lung is smaller because the heart is situated on the left side of the body and takes space. Both the lungs are divided into lobes. The right lung has 3 lobes, superior, middle and inferior. The left lung has only 2 lobes, superior and inferior. We have a voice box. The voice box, also called larynx, is an empty tube-like structure connected to the upper part of the windpipe, made of cartilage. It is made up of 2 tissues that make up the vocal cords. Muscles pull these cords when we speak or sing. The cords vibrate when air passes through them. These vibrations are what we hear as sounds. To produce high sound, the cords need to be short so that they can vibrate faster. During puberty, the voice box and vocal cords witness a growth spurt and lead to deepening of voice in boys and girls. Our eyes always close when we sneeze. Sneezing is also called sternutation. It is almost impossible to keep our eyes open when we sneeze. This is because closing our eyes when we sneeze is a reflex action. Sneezing sets off contraction of various muscles, including the eyelids and the sphincter muscles. This could be because the cranial nerves connect the nose and eyes. So the trigger for the sneeze moves via a nerve to the brain, then it comes down via another nerve to the eyelid and causes it to close. We breathe almost 20,000 times a day. We breathe more than 20,000 times per day. Yes, this amounts to almost 12,000 liters of air. Most of these breaths take place indoors. We cannot live without breathing. Deep breathing is one of the most powerful stress reducers. How many of us take a few minutes each day just to take deep breaths? This means to not only let our chest rise and fall, but also to let our lungs fill completely to the point that our diaphragm drops and our belly expands. If we take time to do this exercise regularly, we will immediately begin to feel a release of stress. It is important that we breathe in consciously for at least 10 minutes a day. A person at rest usually breathes around 12 to 15 times a minute. The normal respiration rate per person is around 12 to 15 times a minute. Studies suggest that the normal respiratory rate for adults is only 12 breaths a minute at rest. Older studies often provide even smaller values, for example 8 to 10 breaths a minute. Most modern adults breathe much faster, which is around 15 to 18 breaths a minute than their normal breathing frequency. Respiratory rates and the sick are usually higher, generally about 20 breaths at a minimum or may even be more. Each lung contains millions of air sacs. Each of our lung contains millions of alveoli, that is small air sacs, which look like clusters of grapes. Groups of alveoli are found at the ends of bronchioles and are the site of gas exchange. A dense network of capillaries that carry blood surround the walls of the alveoli. This is a place where oxygen exchange occurs. The alveoli inflate and deflate when we inhale and exhale, respectively. If the classic recoil of the alveoli is damaged, then it becomes difficult to exhale. The capillaries in the lungs would extend to 1,600 kilometers if placed end to end. Capillaries connect the arteries and veins. As we move our arms and legs, this movement helps to pump blood back to the heart. This enables exchange of oxygen, other nutrients and waste products. The once healthy capillaries help to transfer these materials as they connect the small branches of arteries called arterioles with minute veins called venules. The capillaries pass oxygen and nutrients into tissues. They also collect carbon dioxide and other waste materials to pass them on through the veins to the lungs and the lymphatic system. This exchange of materials happens at the capillary bed. If the capillaries in the lungs were laid in a line, they would stretch to 1600 kilometers. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. See you soon. Bye for now.